Next up in the 2024 Heat Check series is French center forward hybrid Alex Sarr, who as of now seems to be the consensus top prospect in the class. He's been on draft radars for a while now as the brother of Thunder center Olivier Sarr, playing in the Overtime Elite last season. He had his breakout year this season for Perth in the NBL, averaging 9.7 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks in just 17 minutes per game. Per 36, that rounds out to about 20, 9, and 3. He stands at 7'1" in shoes with a 7'4" wingspan and will be freshly 19 on draft night. Here's how Heat Check works. I'm going to identify one draft prospect and grade them on what I believe to be the most generally important skills and aspects of their game: athleticism, scoring, defense, passing and playmaking, and overall feel for the game. After those 5, I'll grade one additional skill relative to that prospect that I think is going to have the biggest effect on their stock. That will be deemed the swing skill. Each skill will be graded on the Heat Check chart with ranges from freezing all the way to scorching. When that's all said and done, I'll divvy out one final overall score. Starting with Sarr's athleticism, I've given him a hot grade. His bouncier offensive style paired with his fluid mobility overall is going to be a major plus in the NBA, leading to easy offense and stingy defense. In the verticality department, Sarr boasted a 37-inch vertical. When coupled with his lengthy wingspan, that makes him a potent threat finishing around the rim. And for as bouncy as Sarr is, his pure fluidity and mobility at 7 foot is the ultimate selling point in terms of his tools. He's atypically coordinated for his size, and his quick foot speed is the driving force behind most of his success on both ends. The only real knock on Sarr in the tools department is his strength, a knock more often than not for these mobile 7-footers, but something that typically works itself out with time. Moving on to Sarr's scoring, which I've graded warm. I really teetered on a hot grade here, but ultimately landed on him needing just a little more connectivity to get there. And there's certainly pathways towards that. As mentioned before, Sarr gets the bulk of his points using his length, athleticism, and finishing prowess around the rim. Running in transition, play finishing in actions, and hanging around the dunker spot for easy buckets. He relies more on that mobility to create advantages around the rim rather than strength, but that doesn't affect his impact too much. 65% around the rim on 98 attempts, a good and projectable mark. Sarr's game-changing offensive skills lie in his potential shooting and shot making. He's shown a real comfortability in face-up situations. Despite the numbers not backing him up just yet, he shot just 28% on his 3-point attempts, ranking below average in catch and shoot per synergy, but managed to grade excellent on dribble jumpers and showed obvious skill in getting to his spots, typically short jumper situations, and knocked them down with consistency. Sarr certainly classifies as a stretch big. He is well furnished on the perimeter. He's going to have a green light from 3-point land from the get-go. The bones of an elite 7-foot 3-level scorer are there, but there's still plenty of areas of improvement before I'm ready to deem him a future scorcher, one of the major areas being his handle and creating shots on his own, which we'll dive into later. The primary selling point for Sarr will be his defense, which I've graded scorching due to his ability to protect the rim, switch, and even defend on the perimeter. Sarr averaged 2.8 blocks per game per 36 in his time with Perth, capitalizing on his length, quicker foot speed, and shot block timing to expertly defend the ring. He covers ground phenomenally, had good awareness, and while his technical game isn't the strongest we've ever seen, he's got a motor that constantly keeps him in plays, deterring shots, making him extremely impactful. And again, as good as Sarr's rim protection is, it's that mobility and his ability to switch and defend in space that projects him to be the potential top pick. He can stretch out, slide his feet, flip his hips, and defends guards and quicker forwards with the best of him. Even when he's beat, his immense length more often than not makes up for it. He's likely best serviced as a 5, but there's plenty of potential for him down the line as a 4 who can protect the rim outside of the paint, hound off ball, and stretch out to the perimeter on offense. I think there's a real chance Sarr is never going to stuff the stat sheet on the defensive end. His pure block numbers might never rival that of Wembanyama or Chet Holmgren, but his impact is going to branch through an entire defensive unit undoubtedly. I've gone with warm for Sarr's passing and playmaking. There's likely not a world where he's operating with the ball in hands and making plays constantly, but this area certainly isn't a negative, and there is some legit pop in some of these plays. His 21 to 26 assist to turnover ratio isn't the flashiest stat in his arsenal, but some of the plays he's able to make showcase some real feel, and I think he's certainly above average for his archetype. There's times the ball can stick to him some, or he can get a little bit overzealous, but those are easily worked out kinks in terms of 7-footer woes. In reality, he probably won't blossom into some legit passer playmaker, be it face up, in the short roll, or posting up, and And I think that's somewhat of a ceiling limiter, but these flashes to me at least confirm he's got enough feel that he's not going to be massively turnover prone or stick out negatively in the big leagues, and every once in a while he's going to flash some good stuff. I've gone with hot for Alex Sarr's unquantifiable feel for the game. You can see it pretty clearly in the way he protects the rim, knows when to get aggressive on offense and attack, and especially in those flashes of pull-up shot making. His fluidity and size already offer him a leg up on most bigs, but he's able to capitalize on that via his feel for basketball in general. He's a pretty good decision maker. Really, the fact he has autonomy over his game at all at 7'1" is impressive, and that makes it pretty easy to bet on his improvement in the coming years. Moving on to the swing skill, I toggled pretty hard between this and shooting, but ultimately landed with Sarr's handle and creation being the biggest factor in his long-term development. I feel pretty good about Sarr's ability to eventually shoot the ball. He won't be a non-shooter, and I don't think he'll be elite. Somewhere in the middle is likely a fine outcome. For now, Sarr's creation ability is limited to the open floor in transition and somewhat attacking closeouts. His handle is really loose, and while his mobility is good, it doesn't necessarily allow him to blow by defenders. Despite all that, he has shown some skill in putting the ball on the floor, which is more than most bigs can boast. If Sarr was able to improve his handling and overall creation ability, it would create a positive domino effect in terms of his finishing, shot making, and shooting. I'm not feeling massively optimistic on his ability to really handle and work on ball down the line, but I do see improvement in the future, and I especially think he'll be able to add simple 1-2 dribble counters to boost his shot making. The grade, I've graded Alex Sarr an 8.6. That's going to tie him for my current best overall grade in the class with Ron Holland of the G League Ignite. Knowing that Sarr is essentially the #1 consensus player at the moment, I tried hard to come into this thing really objectively, and even then Sarr still managed to blow me away in a variety of areas. I'm not necessarily sure he ends up the best player in this class, but the best parts of his game in rim protection and easy offense are effortlessly translatable, and his high ceiling outcome isn't far off in the distance based off his NBL tape. When you couple that with the fact the NBA is moving towards positional versatility with size, and that near every team is going to need a Wemby stopper very, very soon, I fully understand anyone wanting to take a shot on Alex Sarr first overall. That's it for this one. Let me know what you think of Alex Sarr, what you grade him, where you draft him, drop you want to see in the next heat check. We'll see you later.